Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is the 2-hour chart provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. And I've drawn a confusing jumble of lines here, so I want to explain these. Now, the first line that we're looking at is the trend line that I drew initially, indicating the 28.5 level would be the breakout level. If you remember, when I predicted that, we touched it, and then we fell back, then we rallied, we broke through it this morning in a fairly strong manner. So that line seems to be taken out fairly consistently. Now, I've also drawn a new upward trend line, and we seem to be correcting back to that. We'll have to wait and see what we do in the overnight and tomorrow. The next line in view is going to be the top, the spike top we made as we tried to rally back from this breakdown point and then failed. So that's going to be the next level we want to take out. The level that follows that is a trend line drawn all the way up from this October or late September point right before the September smackdown. You can see it comes and it intersects right here. So those two are very close to each other. The next level is a very key support line that was breached. You can see the testing of it. It was tested, rallied from the test, and then failure. So that's a fairly key line as well. That one's right at 31. The other line we've been watching is 31.5. That is a trend line that comes down from here, and it's been tested 1, 2, 3, almost 4 times. And then the next one is going to be the trend line from this top and then falling with this top, and that's going to be about 33. So we're looking at roughly our next test at 30.25, then 31, then 31.5, and then 33. These are all going to be points that we want to get past to establish a bottom in silver. Now, I wanted to show you the long-term view. We want to jump out to the weekly, and we want to put the MACD on the chart. As I said before, it's unusual to see this type of double bottom formation, but it's not that unusual that it can never happen. So you can see we've got two spikes that are almost equal to each other. The most recent one didn't quite penetrate the last low, but you can see that the MACD has dropped significantly from where that low was in September. So let's zoom in a little bit. We want to take off the line tool, and we want to zoom in and take a look at this low compared to the previous low back in 2008. So we're starting to round up here on the MACD. If we draw our line and go right to the very bottom of that and go straight across, we're just touching. So we have reached the low that we reached in 2008, and we're looking for a rally from that point. We're actually at the exact same point. So it's very interesting that we're rallying at this point. This is the most oversold that silver has been. The only way it's not is if we pull out to the monthly, and you can see back in 2008 we're actually at the 0 line on the monthly. So the monthly is not oversold. It's still showing a downward trend, but every other indicator is showing a record low. And you can see on the daily MACD that we've turned up, and if we get a move up towards the 0 line and across the 0 line, that will probably correspond with a move something like this, perhaps taking out some of the old highs, intermediate highs. You can see we have a nice trend line on the MACD. We're looking for that MACD trend line to be broken as well. So a very exciting day. I did expect silver to jump quite a bit today. One of the reasons why is because I think that they were probably holding it down just to make a point, let's say. If we go to Netdania, if you remember, every year for many years, silver has returned a very good percentage. Last year, I don't have the figures on this chart. I think we lost 10% for the year in silver. Now, gold had a gain, and we're going to see that when we look at the article from Ranting Andy. But if you look at the return today for silver, you can see that silver is up 6.14% for the year, and that's on the first day of the year. So when silver snaps back, it's going to snap back violently, and it wouldn't be surprising to see silver up 20, 30, 40, 50% for the year by March, or even more. The other chart I want to look at real quick, and I covered this on my blog, is the oil chart. The oil chart had a very interesting breakout type of rally. You can see, we're going to back out a little bit farther so you can see this key price point that goes back to a number of places. We probably actually want to draw it all the way back from here. So this is kind of a key resistance level in oil, and we don't know what this portends, but this 103 level seems to be a very important level for oil. And does this portend something going on in the Middle East? The latest that I've heard is that Iran is kind of backing down with the Strait of Hormuz issue, but I know that I covered recently about the decline in the Iranian currency, that there's definitely a big, if not military battle, there's a financial battle going on. So that's something we want to watch. Oil seems to be poised to try to take out this critical 103 level, and if we get through that 103 level, then of course we've got this next level at about 114, and that's going to be a critical point we want to break through if oil is going higher. Now, before I do the blog roll, I wanted to jump over to a story that's currently on Yahoo. As you know, I'm a big promoter of Ron Paul, and this is a story that is kind of timely that's come out tonight, or actually today, it was 9 hours ago. And the title of the story is Michelle Bachmann and Rick Perry compete for the Tim Tebow vote, scenes from the caucuses, and you've got a picture of Tim Tebow there. And he's a hero to a lot of people, especially Christians, because he's one of those type of people who is willing to take ridicule. He's not ashamed of his faith, and so he's a person that a lot of people respect. Now, it's interesting to me that Michelle Bachmann and Rick Perry would jump on this bandwagon. I just want to make clear, I am a Christian. That is what I believe. I'm a born-again Christian, just like Tim Tebow. But I want to make it clear, I do not support Michelle Bachmann, and I do not support Rick Perry. Now, if you remember in past elections, George Bush Jr. said he was a Christian. George Bush Sr. said he was a Christian. Jimmy Carter said he was a born-again Christian. Ronald Reagan claimed to be a Christian. Now, I'm not saying that their political actions are going to be something that their Christianity would indicate, but what I did see from all those people, specifically Ronald Reagan, if you remember his history, he was a Democrat for many, many years. He switched to being a Republican. Rick Perry's the same thing. I don't know the specifics on Michelle Bachmann, so I'm not going to comment. But I will say this, that when Jesus was asked about how will we know who is really a Christian, his answer was, by their fruits ye shall know them. So this is my reason for supporting Ron Paul. I'm not claiming that Ron Paul believes what I do. I really honestly don't know what he believes, but I do know this, that Ron Paul's fruit has been consistent, that he has said what he has done what he has said. He has not switched sides. He's not jumped around and, for political convenience, taken a position that would make him look better. So I respect him for that, and for that reason, as a Christian, I do not support Michelle Bachmann, and I do not support Rick Perry, but I do support Ron Paul. So for whatever that's worth, take that into consideration. Now let's go to the blog roll. It's a real large one here. There's just a lot breaking, especially because it's the beginning of the new year. The first story that I've got here is the latest from Ranting Andy of Miles Franklin. I posted this. I didn't even have time to read it. I'm pretty sure that it's about the manipulation, but I didn't even have time to read it. It just came up, and because of his consistency, I just posted it right away. So definitely want to read that. This is an excellent article. I didn't get to finish. It's The Prince of Thieves, and it has an excellent analysis of the economy, but also I just grabbed the silver part here. You definitely want to read that. There's Jesse's Cafe, and he does a good thing on the charts that are going on. There's the latest TF metals, and I encourage you to go to his site. He's very good about silver, and I've got a couple videos down below as well, but this one covers his charts. There's Endless Mountains Fibonacci analysis, and I'm not a big Fibonacci person. I'm not a big Elliott wave person. As you can see from the charts I've done, I'm mainly a support and resistance person, but I find Endless Mountains analysis on the Fibonacci's fascinating. This is a very interesting article about a former CIA agent who's come out in favor of Ron Paul. And that's not really surprising if you look at what Ron Paul has claimed, and I have no reason to doubt him, that if you add up all of the donations given by former military, that Ron Paul is actually, his amount of monies that have been donated to his campaign from former military and current military is greater than all the other candidates combined. So it's not at all surprising to see an ex-intelligence agent to turn out for Ron Paul as well. So that's a really good article. Now this is a little expose on Rick Santorum, and he could have been included with the Michelle Bachmann and Rick Perry crowd. I'm just I'm not taken in by him. So read that one. There's a Burning Platform year in review. It's a very long article, but a very good read. Now, Zero Hedge came out with a blockbuster today. This is the biggest silver surge in over 3 years. You can see the chart here that we had this volatility, this rate of change. Now, it just ticked up to what we had earlier, but it went a little bit above it. So we're looking back to the base we formed back in 2008. So that's a big story from Zero Hedge. Of course, there's Patriot Radio News Hour. I listen to that every day. And Financial Sense, changing horses in midstream. Now there's a chart that I did on oil. I just covered that, and I've picked 107. You can see if we go to the picture here that I've drawn some trend channels here on the oil price. You can see a trend channel that goes back quite a ways that may be violated if this new trend channel breaks out to the upside. So if we break out through 107, which is the price that this descending trend line is indicating, who knows where we're going to go after that. That probably will coincide, my guess would be it would coincide with war. And I put a link on my blog for the poll that's over on Drudge's site. You can see I took a snapshot when I went there. I think Ron Paul is now at about 32%, 31 to 32%. When I did it, it was 29%. Now, it's interesting because when I click on this, it goes back. Actually, I haven't used this computer, so let's go ahead and click on this and see if it's still live. And we go over there, and it's Ron 24, Rick 23, Mitt 23, and Newt 13. So it doesn't look like the poll's still there, but oh, there it is. Okay. So, but I can't vote. Now, when I did vote the second time, I didn't intend to vote the second time. I just intended to go and update the percentages to see what they were. And of course, I just voted to see the results. And it said, obviously recognize my IP address. So it said, you've already voted. So I think that the accusation that the reason why Ron Paul leads in certain polls is because, well, his organization is so strong. I think it's very interesting if you remember the controversy about the Virginia primaries or caucuses or whatever they're called. There's a big controversy because a certain number of candidates didn't make the ballot, I think 4 or so, and they're filing a lawsuit. Of course, Ron Paul's on the ballot. And what that is an indication of, to me, is that a lot of these people, such as Gingrich, I don't think there's any grassroots support for these people. I don't think there's any people out stumping, or people who, young people who are worried about their future, who say, "Oh, I've got to support Newt Gingrich," and they're going door to door. But you definitely have those for Ron Paul. So it doesn't surprise me at all that some of these, what I will call media candidates, weren't able to raise the signatures. But that's a very interesting story. The next story is the Fed to regularly forecast interest rate changes. This is one I saw this morning, and I made a little comment here. And now for the belly laugh of the day, the Fed has decided to tell us 4 times a year that they are hyperinflating away our future rather than once a year. So this is a really strange story. I don't know what it means. If you know what it means, or you think you know what's behind this story, I would welcome the comment. I don't know. The Fed seems to be on the course of Japan, and they just have terminally low interest rates. And I did a story earlier about how the debts of Japan and the United States pretty much make up all the foreign debt that's out there, and yet they have the lowest interest rates in the world. So go figure, it doesn't make any sense. Here's an interview with Peter Schiff on Yahoo, and he predicts a gold rally. This is a very good article on potential $1,000 silver before hyperinflation, and I personally believe that silver should be $1,000 with no inflation at all. I believe the fundamentals tell us, just as what happened with palladium, but even more so rhodium, that silver could be $1,000 right now and it'd be perfectly justified without the price of a loaf of bread changing one bit. Here's the latest from Simon Black, some simple truths you need to know about 2012. And this is my chart analysis about the next targets. An article from Bloomberg about the world's biggest economies. This is one I just referred to, about the debt of Japan and the United States. The 2 big boys in the room, and I comment that their interest rates are the lowest in the world. And there's an article that I found on coinflation.com about the cost of making pennies and nickels, and I connected that to the stealing of lampposts in Britain. Of course, if you inflate and then hyperinflate your currency, then it'll be so expensive just producing coins, because your currency is just worth less and less and less every day. And the last one is a video from this campaign last night of Rand Paul and Ron Paul stumping in Iowa. Very enthusiastic. I encourage you to watch it, because it just shows you the grassroots enthusiasm for Ron Paul. So that's the blog roll. Now, people have asked me, how do I get to your blog? My blog is brotherjohnf.com. There is a link. You can link back to my YouTube channel. If you click on this silver picture, it links back to my YouTube channel. And if you go to this banner on my YouTube channel, it will link back to my blog. So if you want to go from one to the other, that's how you do it. It's just a matter of some of the functions of these sites. I can't create links wherever I want. So that's how you go back and forth between those two. It's very exciting. We had an incredible day with silver, and I was expecting that. I really do believe that they probably suppressed the price of silver near the end of the year, as some have speculated, like Da Vinci and others, that they suppressed the price of silver at the end of the year on low volume so they could go ahead and print a loss for the year. They weren't able to do that with gold, but of course, it's my opinion that silver is a bigger threat to the powers that be than gold by any stretch. And we'll talk to you next time.